Good afternoon. Welcome to Fish Hawk Live. I'm Chris Larson, and we're joined by Captain Casey Prisco today. Captain Case, how you doing today?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Just living the dream, buddy. Just down here in the Fish Hawk Electronics camera bunker and hanging out and staying warm. Did a little ice fishing this morning. Took the boys out and did a little ice fishing with them. We didn't hammer them, but we had a lot of fish around us. I couldn't help it. They didn't know how to catch them, but I got them on fish. You know what I
I
mean?
know the feeling. I've had guys from Fish Hawk on the boat,
Yeah,
and same
yeah,
thing. Same
yeah,
thing.
same thing.
Especially that owner guy. I won't mention his name, Trevor. But
Yeah,
yeah.
they like to release them.
Well, yeah, that, and it was like a Make-A-Wish trip with him on the boat with some of those rod handling skills that I saw. But we made it
Right,
happen.
right. Yeah, yeah. I knew you would be able to sympathize with me.
Yeah.
Before
Oh
we
yeah,
get into
for sure.
before we get into talking fishing, what you and Cooper like to do in the off season, you just did some of that. Tell me about your latest adventures with Cooper.
We did. So I have two German short hairs. I have Bubba and Cooper, and here's Bubba now. He's younger, and Cooper. I love bird hunting. So we I've been chasing the every upland species in North America. So I had an opportunity come up to go hunt ptarmigan. So I got back from Costa Rica, and 2 days later I drove 13 hours into negative 22-degree weather to hunt white-willowed ptarmigan, and pretty special. It was a really, really unique, cool bird. Anytime you can hunt with your dog, a bird's a bonus. It's just like hanging out with Chris Larson and Trevor. If you hang out with those guys, anything beyond that's a bonus.
Right,
But
exactly.
we had a great hunt. I shot my first ptarmigan, so I got to check that off my bucket list. I think between last fall and this spring or whatever, this winter, I've shot 13 different species of upland birds with Cooper. And the goal is next year to finish that off. I do have a little more traveling to do, but it's going to be worth it. I'm passionate about it. I love it just almost as much as I love fishing. I love Cooper more than I like fishing, but hanging out with the dogs and watching them do what they love to do there's Bubba. What they love to do is awesome. Just if you've never hunted with a dog, you should see it. They love it just as much as you do. And it's fun. Come
Well,
on.
we could talk about bird hunting all day, but I don't think that's why everybody's here joining us today. They want to hear you talk about fishing. Well, now you got both of them on your lap.
Oh yeah, well, it's
They're
intention.
like, hey, if it's love time, we're into this.
Yeah, yeah. There's no personal space with German short hair pointers. That is one thing I will tell you. All right, boys, down.
We talked with Captain Pete Alex last week. We talked about some kings, and really he talked Wilson. You fish out of Wilson as well. But let's talk East End kings. Let's talk. You're kind of based out of Pulaski.
Yep.
Tell me about fishing kings down in that neck of the woods.
If we're lucky, and the last few years we've been lucky, we get a spring king bite. It doesn't happen all the time. We've been fortunate that it happened. Last year it happened early, and it was just an unbelievable, probably the best spring king bite I can remember in fishing this lake in a long, long, long time. They showed up and they never left, and it was hard to go out and fish for anything but them. But we would do a mixed bag, get some browns first thing and slide out and get some kings, and a lot of smiles, a lot of happy starter clients and anglers. We don't see it all the time. I'm skeptical this year. We actually have a real winter. It's cold here. The lake's frozen. Lake Erie's frozen. I think we might be a little later than normal this year. I've been wrong before, so I could be wrong again. But normally when it happens, Mexico Bay, we see them. The first one always comes right near the nuke plant, 8 mile or 9 mile, in that area, whether it's on the west side or the east side. Normally it's right in that area. And if there's one, normally there's a bunch. And as quick as they're here, they can disappear too. It's unbelievable how that works. I can remember, I think COVID years, we had a tip that there was a few kings in Oswego area, so we ran over and set up, and there was 5 of us on the boat practicing COVID outlines and guidelines, of course, wearing our masks and staying 6 feet apart from each other. And we killed 15. We killed our limit in less than 2 hours. We went back 2 days later, same area, and did not have a king bite. So they can here today, gone tomorrow. But definitely a bonus. Most times you're outclassed when you're fishing them. You're fishing brown trout line, 10-pound test, medium light, or light rod action. And when you get one on a light rod like that, it is a lot of fun. Light tackle, anything is fun. But especially with a king, you don't just reel them in. They have their way with you. It's fun.
Tell me about what it's like as kind of as the season goes on. You're based in Pulaski. You've got the Salmon River right there. What does that summer season look like?
Summer, Mexico Bay, where the boats are at, right here near the Salmon River, the Little Salmon River. We pretty much have a fishery for everything. You want to catch smallmouth, you can. You want to catch brown trout, you can. You want to catch kings, you can. Lake trout. The really only species that we don't see a good number of until later in the year, or you have to go pretty far, like offshore, would be steelhead. But our fishery down here is pretty solid. Mexico Bay has a ton of structure. Up north off the sand dunes has a lot of sandy bottom for the lake trout. When the kings will migrate here because they want to go up to that hatchery and up that Salmon River and complete their life cycle. So we're fortunate enough to have pretty much the best of all worlds. The only thing that is tough on this end of the lake is the weather. We definitely get some sporty days on the water. Some seasons different than others, but there's definitely a good chance of wind on this end. That we're a 10 to 15 mile an hour wind out of the west, or 20 mile an hour wind out of the west. And Wilson on the other end of the lake may be 2 footers, maybe 3 footers. If you get that down here, 15 to 20 is going to make you 4 to 6s or bigger. You definitely want a skilled crew if you're going to go do that.
Tell me a little bit about what your program would look like, Casey. Let's say you're going to go out, mid-August targeting kings. What would that look like? What would your program look like as you go out?
Mid-August, we're going to start to see some mix of 50-50 of staging fish and of silverfish as they filter into the Mexico Bay area. Right around August, there's a certain time where they stop caring about the temperature so much. There's no thermocline that matters to them anymore. They are in let's go get lucky in the Salmon River mode. So you'll start to see them get a little bronze to them, or even a little more colored up. Those fish are the fish that you're catching are out of temperature. They're in that 60, 62, 64 degree water, even warmer. We're going to go out and find the thermocline because we're going to try to still target those silverfish, but we'll run some stuff in that higher. If we're running double divers or higher coppers, we'll run some stuff in that higher, warmer water, especially first thing in the morning before the sun's up. Target those fish as long as we're seeing them there. And then, hey, leave it. And then, as the sun comes up, we'll definitely start to sink our stuff because you'll see your fish finder showing you that it's fish are sinking.
And what do you
go ahead.
Is that a spoon program? Is that a meat program? You're running plugs? What are you doing that time of year?
I may throw a J plug on the middle rigger or a spoon, but other than that, every rod's going to have a piece of meat on it. Atomic meat, tough to beat. It really is the real thing. I mean, there is a time in August and September where the meat bite shuts down or it slows down, and you can target these fish on flies, which is great because meat is consuming your time and of your money. It's expensive, but it's worth it. If the meat bite's what they want, give them the meat. Like I said, there's a time where it switches up. It's normally in August sometime where we catch them all on flies. I don't even put a piece of meat in the water, which is rare for me, but normally it's going to be a spoon or a plug right at that warmer water, and the rest is going to be meat, every rod.
All right, I got a question coming in. I know what the answer for the first part of this is going to be. Dan Helwig says, have you ever used West Coast lures like Brad's cut baits, and how do you rig them? So I'm going to guess the answer to the first question is no, but I would like you to talk about how you do your meat rigs.
So I have used Brad's cut plugs when we had Anglers West on the boat. We did take a few bites on it. To be 100% honest with you, there's a lot of great companies. SoCo Bait makes an artificial bait. Deep Rig Tackle makes an artificial bait. If you still have them, I can't think of the name of them. They're from Canada. They were the first artificial strip. Boy, I'm drawing a blank. MC Rockets. If you have the real thing, for me, I'm always going to use the real bait. Do I think sometimes it hurts me? No. That's my opinion. Others can say, that if you get the right roll with the fake bait, it could definitely work just as well. I think the real thing's hard to beat. That's just my opinion on that one. I don't like using L-wives. I use straight herring, like I said, atomic meat, West Coast herring, or wherever it comes. It's definitely Pacific herring, and the scales are tight. That's key. Scales and the right roll. You're wasting your time if you don't take the time to make sure your meat's doing the right, looks right, and is presented right to the fish. You get the right roll, the kick, that's going on, you're set. Then you just got to find the right fish.
You talk a little bit about how you rig your meats, Casey. What does that look like when you're dropping down?
Rigging the meat, I mean, it's obviously scale side out. There's times I trim it. I'll put it in the water behind the attractor, and the first thing I'm going to do is look at the roll, make sure that's right. If it's not, it's coming back in. Sometimes I got to tweak the head or shorten the length of the bait. Sometimes they're a little long. Once I do that, I put it back in, and if that's set, it's going to be behind an 8-inch chip or a stinger chip or a oaky fish, some Twinkies. Once in a while, I'll run it clean and send it.
And what heads are you using?
I use a mix, a lot of atomic and a lot of diabolical. Just my preference. Mark makes some great colors that I have 100% ton of confidence in. Probably my best head from him is called Bone. It's pretty much just a glow head with some crushed tape on it. That's my best head behind the bullfrog rig with the Dirty Goose Twinkies, and that head is tough to beat. That's in the water every day.
Tell me a little bit about those colors, Casey. You fish up in Wilson, in May, come up back to Pulaski. Do the colors change from fishing in Wilson to when you go to Pulaski?
Yes and no. So as I fish in Wilson and Dirty Goose Twinkies, Green Glow Twinkies, Worship Twinkies, Stud Twinkies, Ghost Twinkies. I don't know if I said that or not. They're pretty much white Twinkies. I'll use those same Twinkies on this end, but as we get later in the season, when we start to get those staging fish, just before they go to that fly bite, a lot of times we'll use like Davis Destroyer, Primetime Pete, just some brighter colors. The Davis Destroyer is black, but the Primetime Pete's like a chartreuse. Worship, that's like a chartreuse, or really like shiny one. Shenster, Steel Gator, they're just shiny, just to draw attention of these staging fish, and it seems to make a difference. I don't use that same rigs on that end, but I also don't use them until those staging fish get here. So I would say same rigs for most of the season, except until the staging fish come. Then I'll throw in some awkward, gaudy colors or shiny colors.
You got a mix of kind of the more clear water and the dirty water up in Niagara. What is the water clarity like where you're at in Pulaski on the east end?
A lot of days it's really clear. Really depends on if we get any precipitation where the Oswego River is pumping water in, and Salmon River. If we get some of the tributaries pumping some dirty water, we'll have some color. But a lot of times it is pretty much black water and it's clear, with a lot of current, because the wind is constantly moving the temperature around. We get a ton of current here. Fishing without a probe, fish hawk, is a no here. You definitely need it. There's so many times that you'll be going 3 mile an hour on the surface to go 1 mile an hour, 1.5 mile an hour down low. It's crucial, absolutely crucial here to have a probe fish hawk. It's constantly current, constantly changing. A little bit of wind here will move the temperature I've been out there and in a 6-hour charter, seeing the temperature move from 60 feet down to 100 feet down, or just the opposite, come up from 100 feet down to 50 feet down. Just with a little bit of wind. We definitely have a lot of current here, and constantly changing situations in the conditions on the lake.
All right, if somebody's thinking about making the trip up to Mexico Bay, Pulaski, Oswego area, what advice would you give someone that was heading out to that water? I mean, maybe they're a very experienced angler on the Great Lakes, but coming to that water for the first time. What advice would you give them?
There's a couple captains that do some great reports. I give a report every day. Gives you, what the boats have been catching, what we're catching them on. I would definitely check the weather depending on the size of your boat. It can change out there pretty quick on this end. I've seen a flat lake go to 6 to 8 footers in less than an hour. So definitely check your wind forecast. And like I said, there's a handful of captains around that do give a nice report. And then there's some other pages like Lake Ontario. United has some reports for this area. Get a few reports. What I would say is don't chase somebody else's fish. I would go more about location and figure out how to catch the fish yourself. It's more rewarding that way.
All right, let's talk a little bit of Lakers. I wanted to get you on today really to talk about a new project that you have going, but let's talk some Lakers.
Sure.
How do you fish Lakers out of your neck of the woods? And I think it's a little bit of a run for you, isn't it?
It can be. Yeah. So in April, they show up first couple weeks of April, depending on the temperature. Once they show up, we catch them pretty much out in front of 9 Mile Plant, anywhere from 65 feet of water right on out to 180 feet of water. Those fish will be there until the bait shows up, and we get some currents, pushes the bait up towards the North Dunes and South Dunes, and the Lakers migrate with them. When that happens, our run is about 10 to 12 miles to start. By the end of the trip, sometimes we're 16, 17, 18 miles from home before we're done catching our Lakers and fishing. We fish salmon at the same time if they're around. We definitely have a pretty amazing fishery when it comes to lake trout. There's a lot of good lake trout areas here to fish, and we're pretty blessed with some pretty big fish.
Yeah, tell me about that. Is it a numbers fishery? Is it a size fishery? Tell me a little bit about the size structure that you guys are targeting out there.
We get a mix. So and I don't know why it is. I mean, I have something that I'm not going to let out right now, but I have. It'll be released this spring, I would say. I'm working on something. I found a way to target bigger fish, but you'll still catch little ones. The lake trout definitely are aggressive. Some days you go out and every fish you catch is under 10 pounds, and other days you go out and it could be a morning trip. One of my biggest lake trout, I was doing a Cops for Cause. Cooper, come here, give me that. I was doing a Cops for Cause event, and in the morning we caught nothing but fish 6 to 10 pounds. We probably had 18 of them. The afternoon we did a Cops for Cause event. It's an event that we put on for families that have lost either somebody in their family in the line of duty. We do it every year, and this was I believe the second year going, and we go out and our first rod down. My girlfriend at the time was on the boat with me, and she gets tight to the fish, hands it to the kid, 28 pounds. It was one of the biggest lake trout that I've seen in a long time here. Where he was in the morning, I don't know. We fished the same exact area with 5 boats. In the afternoon, that was the first fish we caught, and we caught several fish in the afternoon that were over 15 pounds. We definitely have some trophy fish. I would say your average lake trout is going to be 7 to 12 pounds. But we do see several in that upper teens range, and occasionally we get them over 20 pounds. I think every year we probably get 15 to 20 fish between, my 5 boats that are over 20 pounds. A lot of people, I think, are deceived by a lake trout. They look a lot bigger than they are. When you actually put a scale on it, it's a 20-pound fish. A 16-pound fish is a trophy fish. Anything over that, I would say is big. But there's a couple spots that are so far for people to go that they don't get fished. And last year I had a gentleman, he started out as a charter client and ended up buying a boat for me. And I think he took third place, but he booked me for 3 days of trophy lake trout fishing because he wanted to up his game and try to win the lock derby. And we caught over 70 lake trout, 15 pounds or bigger in this one area. It's not always like that, but that's when we did some experimenting with certain techniques, and I won't mention too much more, but it's coming out. I have definitely have found something that works to targeting bigger lake trout. I actually last year, me and my girlfriend purchased Hammerhead tackle from Jim Piano. It's a cowbell company specifically for lake trout. We took that over the end of September, I guess, and I've been building cowbells. I have some great help helping me out do it, but it's been pretty neat. It's pretty cool to say that you're building tackle and you're going to go out and catch some stuff on tackle you made. Fish USA is going to be carrying all of our SKUs, and there's definitely some new colors coming out. So keep your eye open for them. They'll be at the Niagara Expo in a few weeks here, and Sonny's Fishing Center also is going to have some customs too at there. So should be good. Be a good show, and I'm excited to debut some new colors.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool, Casey. Tell me a little bit about that Hammerhead cowbells. You guys acquired them. How did that happen? And kind of what's your idea with that going forward?
Well, if you're going to fish lake trout, in my honest opinion, that's all I've ever used is Hammerhead cowbells. So you have to have a variety. Obviously, some days they tune in on a certain color. Other days it doesn't matter, but there's days when it does. So I would call up Jim. He was the original owner and inventor of them, and I'd order 60 to 80 sets of cowbells from him. And he would joke with me, "What do you need so many for? I don't want to be that busy." I said, "You're in business. What do you mean you want to be that busy?" I'm retired. He's a tool and die maker by trade. He retired, and he's still a charter captain. And he's just like, "Well, you should buy it." And he was joking with me. I said, "Well, give me a number." And we went back and forth the first year, like just goofing around. I never was really serious about it. And I went to order him again, and he goes, I want to get rid of it. So we sat down and talked, and next thing you know, me and Elaine have purchased Hammerhead tackle cowbells, and it's been quite the journey. It's there's some learning curve, obviously. Jim's very good. I was actually just on the phone with him. I had a little issue with one of the things I was working on, and he's quick to answer the phone, quick to help. He's just a great guy, and he made a great product, and I'm hoping to make him proud and continue on with what we've done. And Elaine probably has the hardest part of it. She helps me with everything with it, between bagging and labeling and designing and decisions, and I rely on her for a ton of it. But it's been good. We've had some hiccups and bumps with it, but it's we're both excited about it.
People want to support you and pick up some of those cowbells. Where can they find them?
They're going to be at pretty much every Great Lakes shop on Lake Ontario. Fish USA is going to have them. Fat Nancy's, All Seasons, Sonny's, Woody's. I'm sure there's other tackle shops on the other end of the lake. I don't know everyone that Jimmy was dealing with. What I'm going to do is tell everybody, if you wanted to purchase them, go online or go to one of the local tackle shops in Pulaski, or go online to Fish USA. They're going to have a full array of them, as is Sonny's and Fat Nancy's and All Seasons.
Tell me about fishing with cowbells. If someone's never tried it, how does it work? What do they do? How do they set them up?
Let me grab a set. Hang on. I actually have a set here. This is a set of cowbells called Lake Trout Killer. Great color, green and chartreuse. Must have. There's different versions of it. You pretty much are going to take this cowbell. I'm going to unhook it for you. You're going to take the cowbell and hook it to your line with the rudder up first. which I'm going to show you here in a second. Hook this rudder to your swivel. At the end of this, I like a spin and glow and an atomic coho fly. I run about a 20-inch lead, 24-inch lead. I wish I had one here. I don't think I do. I run a lead to the end, put the fly, then the spin and glow on the line, send it down. When I fish these, I fish slow, 1.6, 1.8 miles an hour. You're going to fish right near the bottom. I take my Canon downrigger. I take my fish hawk probe off for this because I do not want to bang the probe off the bottom. I go mainly GPS speed. That's just my preference. Plus, I have a pretty good idea with my downrigger where I should be. I hit bottom, bring it up 3 feet, wait 30 seconds, hit bottom again, bring it up 3 feet. I run them in a Scotty pinch pad so I can see every action that lure's doing, every little bite. And when a bite happens, that rod will bang like this or it'll pop free. I prefer it to bang than pop free because a lot of times you're fishing 150, 160 feet down. There's a lot of stretch in the mono. I'd like to get to the rod, pop it, and reel so I'm already getting tight to the fish instead of them having all that time for me to reel down if it's popped. Pretty much reel them up and you're in. That's lake trout fishing. You can catch salmon on it. I've caught some kings before. I know a few guys last year caught kings. We actually caught a king right during the eclipse last year. He was all screwed up. Caught him in the dark.
I mean, is that like your most fun way to go after lake trout? I mean, it seems like that's pretty active fishing while you're trolling, based on what you've described to me. I mean, that's not just dropping lines and kicking back and popping a cold one.
No,
You're doing some work there.
Your captain or your whoever's running your downriggers, maybe your captain, your mate, it's constant. I'm banging bottom constantly. I'm checking to make sure I'm not dragging zebra mussels or that anything's tangled. I'm making sure that I'm in contact every time with bottom. Bring it up 3 feet. Bang. Bring it up 3 feet. You got to look at speed. Sometimes you turn direction and there's current. You got to go faster. You got to go slower. I have my cannons. I can tell exactly where they're at by my line counter on my cannon, by my digital readout. So I know if I'm not hitting bottom. Normally, if I'm fishing 150 with Power Pro on my downriggers, 117 to 120 feet of line out hits bottom for me. So I know that at lake trout speed. So if I get there and I have to put more line out, I know there's current. I got to adjust my top speed. And there's some days they want it super slow or super fast. Some days it doesn't matter, And so it's you learn every time you're out there, and that's what's cool about it. But lake trout's definitely a lot of fun. Action. They're a hell of a fish to have smoked. That time I was talking about salmon during COVID, we ended up catching those 15 kings. Then we went out and caught a bunch of lake trout. I had a guy smoke them all, and I had 2 bags, and I asked probably 10 or 12 different people to try them, and it was unanimous. The lake trout was way better than king salmon smoked. And I've heard it from a lot of people on the boats. I think lake trout get a bad name. Oh, they're dirty, they're greasy, they're this, they're that. It's all preparation, how you take care of them. If you bleed your fish, the smaller ones, I would absolutely say are okay to eat. That you're going to have good flavor to them, especially in the colder water. That's where they live. And the bigger ones, I would say smoke. It's an older fish. It's just no different than an old cow or a veal. But I would definitely, I have people come every year that rant and rave how good they are. I guess it's preference.
Yeah, just like anything else, you cook it right, you can enjoy it.
Yep.
Let's talk about your school coming up here. But before we do that, is there anything else about fishing, about cowbells, about lake or salmon you want to talk about before we get into the school?
No, I think this year it's going to be a tougher salmon bite to start just with how cold it's being. I think it's going to be back to a normal year where we don't really see that strong bite until May, or even, first week of May. I can remember some years it's like the 4th, 5th, 6th of May in Wilson before we start seeing any kings, and then they start showing up lake wide. But I think it's going to be a later season. There's Lake Erie's almost frozen over, or maybe it is frozen all over now, and there's a lot of ice on Lake Ontario, and it's been super, super cold. And I think it's going to be a fun spring. There's definitely going to be a lot of brown trout around and a lot of lake trout around, and hopefully a few kings show up early. I'm not voting against it, but I honestly think it's going to be a later spring with it. So we're making lots of cowbells and getting ready for guys that want to catch lake trout.
Yeah, it's been a real winter this year, so that's good for guys like me who like to ice fish. Let's get into the school. You guys are doing the school at the Greater Niagara
Yep.
Fishing Expo in February. Your salmon school is sold out, but you guys want to get on it and go to the walleye trolling school with Captain Craig Sleeman, Captain Lance Valentine, Captain Don Rupert. That's all still open. You can get into that, but your salmon school in Niagara is filled up, but you guys have another opportunity in March on your end of the lake on the east end. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So last year, I had a lot of people reach out to me, and most of our guys, I'm not saying some guys don't go there, but we have a lot of guys that come from Maine, Vermont area, and to go to Niagara is an extra 2 hours or 3 hours. They said, is there a school closer? That being said, myself, Captain Pete, and Captain Rob said, let's do a school on the East End. So we launched our first school last year. We did just one day last year. It was primarily salmon. We did talk about browns and, but it was mainly salmon. We did talk a little bit about browns, and we put out a questionnaire at the end. We had 120 people, and it was unanimous that guys wanted to know about steelhead and lake trout. So what we did this year is we're going to do a Saturday for kings and cohos, and then a Sunday for steelhead, lake trout, and brown trout. It's going to be at the same place, Fairway and Dreams in Mexico, New York. There's a lot of lodging around here. We can get some discount lodging too at a Shepherd's Hook Motel. Blank. There's a couple other places. I will, if you message me, I can get you in contact with it if you need lodging. But we do have some availability. They are going fast. Last I knew, I think there was maybe 25 or 30 seats left. I'm not sure. It's been a week or so, but it's a great time. There's a lot of raffles. There's a lot of information. There's no secrets held back. You ask it, we are going to give you exactly what we're doing. You're talking to guys that fish Lake Ontario. I know there's some schools there's guys that don't fish Lake Ontario. Not sure I would want to go to one of them. That'd be like me telling you how to raise pigs or cows when I'm not a farmer. I wouldn't do it, but your call. We have 3 captains that fish primarily Lake Ontario, and it's pretty much from one end to the other. Pete and Rob fish a ton on the west end. I go to the west end. I fish the east end. I fished pretty much every port when I used to fish tournaments. Captain Pete still fishes tournaments. So does Rob. They go to Canada. So we've pretty much got the whole lake covered, different tactics. And we're willing to give you all the goods. There's nothing held back. We had 120 people last year, and everybody was pumped about it. This year, we've downsized it to 100 per day. It was a little crowded. We want to give you a little more room, but we have, like I said, $5,000 worth of tackle and gear that we're going to be raffling away. Between the 2 days, you get a free meal, breakfast, donuts, coffee, free meal during the lunchtime. And if you'd like to have an adult beverage while you're there, as long as you stay respectful and don't get too out of control. Boozing and classing. Can't go wrong.
If you want to find out more information about that, you can go to the website. It's greatlakesspecialevents.com, and you can pick up any tickets, find out some more information about it. The guys from Vermont Fishing Adventures say the East End School last year was a blast. Can't wait to go out again this year. So you've already got some ticket purchasers there watching.
Yeah.
But appreciate your time, Casey. And remember, we'll also be going live at the Greater Niagara Fishing Expo. Captain Casey Prisco will be co-hosting one segment. We'll have Pete Alex on one segment. We'll have Rob Westcott on one segment too. So we'll try to get some of these juicy nuggets for you guys live on the Great Lakes Fishing Show right there at the Greater Niagara Expo coming up. It's Valentine's Day weekend. So I'll see you then, Mr. Prisco, but appreciate you joining us today.
Did you get anything for your sweetheart yet?
Not yet. I think
you're a last minute shopper.
Yeah, we'll just drop the box on the steps as I'm heading out the door for the airport.
Oh, jeez. God bless her sweetheart.
Yeah.
What
about you?
I'm prepared. I already got We just went to Costa Rica. We came back, but I have a special little gift waiting.
Yeah.
On Valentine's Day. Before I leave, I'm gonna not just drop it on the porch and make sure I, present it to her, not
Yep.
just drop it on the porch, dump and run like you.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Well,
I thought you were
I always
I
knew
thought
you
you
were
were raised better
romantic.
than that. Your father was on the boat with me, very
Yeah.
respectful guy, great conversation. Your son was on the boat. I didn't see that from you. You're that guy.
Yeah. Well, I'm the rebel of the group,
I'm
the
gonna have to
black
talk to
sheep,
you.
if you will.
I'm gonna have to talk to them when you guys come down here and fish.
All right, Mr. Casey Prisco. You can find out more about him. Just go to Facebook, follow him there, Dirty Goose Sportfishing, and really appreciate you jumping on. And looking forward to seeing you in February.
Sounds good, pal. Enjoy the night.
All right, thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.